Big time wrestling, baby. Yeah. Tell all your people, my brothers and sisters, don't miss it. It's going to happen 11 o'clock. I'm so excited. Me and Captain Joe. Come here, Capper. Get up here, brother man.
Yeah.
We're going to do it to it.
We're going to do it. We're going to make it happen.
Look out, Jack. Woo, much there. Boogie Man feel good. Oh, yeah.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is Freddie Cornell right here with Big Time Pro Wrestling. We're going to do our shoot interview. Myself, along with Christopher Angel. And this time, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome and thank you very much for coming. The boy from New York City, handsome Boogie Woogie Man, Jimmy Valiant, along with his protege right there, Captain Joe, joining him today. Thank you, Jimmy, for joining us.
Thank you, Big Freddie, man. God bless you. You know, first of all, people, I want to tell you something, man. I've known Freddie 30 years and been a personal friend of mine, man. He's family, and I appreciate this. And you know, so many people want to do a shoot interview with handsome Jimmy, the Boogie Woogie Man Valiant, and I've done very few. I did one, maybe really 25 years ago with High Spots, and I did very few of these. But Big Freddie asked me, he says, man, you know, would you do this? And I said, you know, Freddie, brother, you've been so good to me and my family, Angel, BWC, my wrestling camp, for all these years, man. Just a personal friend. I'm just honored, and I said, I'll be honored to do it. Big time wrestling people. This is what it's all about, Big Freddie. Yes,
oh, absolutely.
I'm all yours.
Before we get underway and so like that, I mean, I know this pandemic, this COVID, Corona that's going around. How you doing? I know a lot of the shows has been postponed, canceled, everywhere, all over the United States, everywhere, all over the world. Actually, I mean, how are you getting along, you and Angel and everybody your way? I mean,
Freddie, it's just, it's just God's will, God's way. Every morning I wake up and I said, I got one prayer, and I say this over and over, maybe 20 times a day, out loud to myself. Thank you, Jesus. Praise the Lord, and Godspeed to all. When I say Godspeed to all, I'm talking about the whole world. I mean Godspeed to everybody, human being living, And me and Angel were doing fine, and I'm not complaining, man. This is my farewell tour. I started wrestling in 1964, and this is, as you know, and we're still going to have the Boogeyman Jam, my last event with Big Time Wrestling, right here in West Virginia, and it's something that I was completely booked up. I had 2 weekends out of the rest of the year that wasn't booked. And when this hit, I mean, hey, I haven't worked in, 3 months, 2 months, whatever it is. And when you gave me this opportunity to help, and oh man, I'm not going to jump, I'm going to jump all over it, Freddie. But Angel and I were doing fine, we're doing great. When my eyes open in the morning and I can wake up and just go. I'll be this August, just a couple of months from now. I'll be 78 years old. I was born in 1942, and hey, been all over the world five times, man. So I've done it all, man. So it just happened. My farewell tour. This hit. And I'm not bitter, I'm not complaining, I'm just praise the Lord that I'm still here with it. And we will, for Big Time Wrestling, do one last event with you all, which will be the Boogeyman Jam.
Oh, absolutely. Okay, let's get started here for the questions here. First, now you said you'll be going on 78 years old, correct?
Yes, sir.
And now, let's start from the beginning of when you started professional wrestling. Who trained you, and when and where, and what was your first career match and your first territory that you started?
Very good. You know, everybody, for some reason, they think Vern Gagne trained me, and he did in a sense, but I didn't go to his wrestling school academy. When I started wrestling in 1964, his came later, in the late 60s or early 70s. Early 70s, I think he started his wrestling school, and there wasn't any. There was one, I think in Detroit, you know, and I think there was one, Bob Saber had one in Chicago that I heard about. But when I started, I was very fortunate to be at the right place, right time. I was at Big Freddie, I was at Acres Health Club, and I managed it for a ex-pro wrestler. And he didn't wrestle for years. And then all of a sudden one day his partner came back in, and they were the Volkovs, Nikolai and Boris Volkov. Now I'm not talking about the Nikolai Volkov that was hot and they were teamed up with the Iron Sheik in the 70s. I'm talking about the original Volkovs. They were hot in the nation, around Chicago, all over, you know, the nation in the 50s and the 60s. And these are the original Volkovs. And so when his partner came in, because he retired, both of them did, for 10 years, and he was a tugboat captain. Well, this was Nikolai. Well, Boris, his partner, was my boss at the health club. He owned the health club. So when Nikolai came back and he wanted to do one more run, and so my boss, you know, and his real name is Frank Zila, and he says, Jimmy, you should do this. I was just a young kid, 20 years old. He said, man, you got everything going for you. You're young, you got good body, you got, you know, nice hair, you're good looking. You know, he's telling me everything that he's seen, and he says, this would be good for you, you know, get into this. So this is how this happened. Since there was no schools or nothing, he said, I'll train you, and so he just put me in he had a dojo room, you know, they did their karate, and they did all their martial arts in this health club, and real fast he started training me, and in 2 weeks I had 3 weeks training, and in second week he went to Ohio, K&H, and got me a pair of boots and tights, and he says, go get you a jacket, you know, somewhere, and he said, bleach your hair blonde, and he's telling me all this in 3 weeks. And in 3 weeks' time, he calls me in and he says, Jimmy, he says, I'm going to have to go to Florida. He had to get some kind of operation. He wanted to get out of there. Well, him and Nikolai was in the main event in Chicago at the St. Andrews Arena. And he says, you're going to take our place. And me and this other young kid that he was training also. And he says, your name is Jimmy and Gary Valentine. That was our name. He gave us our name, from Hollywood, California. And so 3 weeks, man, here we're in Chicago, you know, in the main event, taking their place, you know. Man, I don't even know how to tie my shoes. I don't know nothing, you know. And he says, don't worry about it. He says, I'm leaving. And he says, you got till Saturday. He says, go downstairs. And downstairs was a NWA world champion, and Bobby Manifold. And look it up, people, with all your history. Look it up. In 1942, Bobby was the world champion. The same belt, NWA, that Flair, that Funk, that Harley Race, that Briscoe, you know, all the world champions had. He was the world champion in 1942, the year I was born. And at this time, he had a coma in his eyes. He was almost blind, but he was doing massages downstairs at the Acres of the Health Club where I was managing. And he says, go down there and talk to Bobby all week, you know, and he'll give you some pointers and that. Well, Bobby helped me so much. But 3 weeks, I mean, you know, hey man, it takes 5 years to really know what you're doing in this business. And so they put us out there, you know, and we were lucky to work in the main event, of course, with the top guys, and lucky to do that. And our first match was against Billy Gills and Johnny Gilbert, and they went as the G-Men. Look it up, people, look it up, it's history. And they were real hot, and they were, you know, real hot in the 50s, in the 40s, 50s, and now they're on their end of their career, and we're just upstarts, you know. And again, I tell you, I didn't know how to time my shoe, but I get out there, and all of a sudden we're doing stuff, man, and I got holes on these guys, and how'd that happen? You know what I mean? You know, they're doing it for me. They're doing everything, and we got by with this. We got by with it, and they invited us back the next week, and because we had to take the Volkov place, you know, before, and so we came back. We shot you know, something that we came back, and then the third week the Volkovs came back, and so that was my first. That's how I got into business, and I was actually working pro in 3 weeks, and I actually got worked. I actually got on. Got my education in the ring, on the job training. So Big Freddie, that's the difference. And you know what? If I was a wise guy, if I wasn't a good guy, if I thought I knew stuff, if I was real cocky, they'd break your leg, and they would hurt you. These guys were the real Dick the Bruiser, Crusher, man. They got the big 20-inch necks with the big cauliflower ears, you know, Vern Gagne. These guys could really hurt you, you know, and they would run you off. And they didn't smarten you up. They didn't tell you nothing, brother. You just went out there and you worked, and if you know, was cool, then they'd take you under their wing, and which in 2 weeks they sent me to Dick the Bruiser in Indianapolis. He says, you're going to go down there and do TV for him. And so I went down there, and we did 6 tapes, Freddie, and I lost 6 times, man, and you know, just a couple minutes, and this is how we were learned, you know. And then they sent me from there to Vern Gagne. I'd do his TV, and they beat me, brother, like a scalded dog, a wet dog, man, you know. And then they sent me to the Sheik in Detroit, and man, they beat me on TV, sent me in. This is how we learn. Then they start giving me house shows, you know, and as house shows, they'd put me in with Johnny Case or someone, you know, a real good hand, a veteran that would he said, okay, go 15 minutes with this kid, man. You know, that's how I learned. And so I get my time there, not on TV, but that's how we learn, you know. And within a few years, I got my break, which is very fortunate, you know, because you can't stay there too long, you know, doing jobs and losing, you know, all the time, because then you get labeled, you know. So they seen something in me, and they got me out of there, and then they started giving me a few wins on TV and a few wins in the house shows. And then Vern Gagne said, Jimmy, he says, we just bought into Oklahoma, you know, and he says, me, Bill Watts, and Fritz von Erich, we invested into Oklahoma, into Tulsa, Oklahoma territory. Leroy McGirt owned it, and he says, we bought into it. We want to send you out there, and so hey, man, I went home, and he said, the only thing is, I was doing TV for him that Saturday. He said, the only thing is, you got to be there next Saturday to do TV, you know. And so within 1 week, man, I go home. I drive 400 miles home from Minneapolis, and I tell my wife I got, you know, a couple of babies, 3 children, you know, 3 little girls, and I said, honey, let's sell everything we got and put everything else in a little U-Haul. We got to go all the way to Oklahoma, man, and I got to get rent a house. I got to get the kids in school. I got to do this. I got to do that. You know, whatever it takes. And I got to be in Oklahoma City Saturday night. So hey, I did that, and that's how it all started right there. And soon after that, and just to not get ahead of your question, but I stayed there 3 months. Fritz von Erich called me, and he gave me my name. You know, I went in as Handsome Jimmy. No, I went in as Jimmy the Body Valiant. And Johnny Valentine, their big star, was there at that time. And they says, you know, the Fritz says, well, that's too close to our big star. And I haven't had a break. You know, I was just right in the middle. And he says, he looked at me and said, your name is Handsome Jimmy Valiant. And that's great. And that stuck with me. I stayed there 2 months. Vince McMahon called from New York, 1970, and he says, you know, we're looking for a young, good-looking kid. He said, I got a kid right here, been here 2 months, and man, I'll send him right to you. And Vince is the one, Vince Sr., not the Vince McMahon you see today. That's his son. I worked for his dad, all in the 70s, went to New York 3 times, stayed over a year each time. And, man, I could keep going. We'll go ahead with your question.
Okay, so that was you're talking about 70. So Vince Senior. So you did the tour. Now, am I correct? That was from 1971 to 92. I mean 72.
Yes. Yeah. That was the first shot, and then we went back. Me and Johnny. I was in a single there, and then me and Johnny, and that's when they teamed me up with Strongbow. And you know, a funny story right there. This is great. The first day I went in, and I talk all about this in my book. I got a book that Freddie, you know, you read it. I've read it, and it's a hardback, 600 pages, and it's called "Woo, Messy Daddy, Welcome My World," the Jimmy Valiant story. You know, and it weighs 3 pounds, man. I tell people, get your 2 copies and work out with them, man, you know. But yeah, real funny, good story here. And when they sent me in 71, that's when it was. In 71, they sent me into Vince McMahon, and I look and he said, "Here's where you are, Jimmy, the next 30 days." And he says, "Here's who you're working with." And I look down and I see every town all the way through the East Coast. I mean, you know, from Pennsylvania to, you know, New Jersey, New York, Connecticut, Massachusetts, Maine. I mean, he runs the whole coast. I mean, so you know, that's where all the population is, the East Coast, you know. And so he says, here's who you're working with in all these cities for the next month. And I look, and every name, every night, it says the Black Demon. And I says, his name Tony Nico. And so I said, Black Demon. I said, Vince. I said, I just met Vince, man. You know, I'm no one. I'm just a young kid, man. You know, not even got my break or nothing. And I said, is this a bad guy? Is this a heel? You know? And he says, what? You know, Black Demon. You know, what do you think you're going to do? And he says, yeah. Is that a problem, Jimmy? And I says, well, Vince, I feel more comfortable as a heel, you know, and I wanted to heel, you know, and he said, I'll tell you what, Jimmy. He says, first of all, you come from a man I admire, Fritz von Erich, and he says, you remind me so much of someone that made me a lot of money years ago, and it was Mr. America, Steve Stanley, so another blonde kid, good body, you know, and he says, I'll tell you what, 6 ifs, I'll switch you to a heel and make you a lot of money, so. And it's so funny, when I went to Tulsa, going back, Bert Gagne says, Jimmy, you're going to make $300 a week. And every week, sure enough, there it is, 300. Whatever they tell you, gospel. And then when I went to with Fritz Fritz in Dallas for the 2 months, he said, when you go there, Fritz says you're gonna make $400 a week. And sure enough, and that's a raise, and that's great, 400, and I did like clockwork. And when I went to New York, they said, Jimmy, you're gonna make $500 a week. This is how we did business then. And sure enough, for 6 months, I made $500 a week. And Vince must have wrote down in his book, because the day, 6 months to the day, I switched on Chief Jay Strongbow, and I became the heel, and that was the deal. The very next week, they were getting me ready for Pedro Morales, which was the world champion. And the very next week, boom, it went from $500, and I made $1,500 that week. And so he said exactly what, he told me. He said, if you get over, we'll help you. He says, and then he said, I'm gonna make you some money and you'll be a heel. So hey, whatever Fritz Valiant, whatever a promoter, a good promoter, like you, Freddie, you're a great promoter. Hey, whatever you tell me, brother Jimmy, I got this for you, I got that for you, we want to do this. It happened. And you're the great promoter, so is Vince McMahon, so is Fritz Von Erich, and Vergania, Dick the Bruiser, hey, they all were great promoters, and they all, when they tell you something, you take it to the bank, because it's gospel.
Absolutely. So you moved on, so that's with the Chief Jay Strongbow, and so we moved on to 1973. One of the questions is, somebody asks us, the WWA Indianapolis. Can you tell us some part of that?
You bet. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And that's when me and Johnny hooked up together. Now that's where I started. That was with Dick the Bruiser. The owner was Dick the Bruiser and Wilbur Snyder. And how that came about, WWA was in California. And Blassie, he was a world champion, and Dick the Bruiser went out there and worked the program with Blassie and beat Blassie for the title, and then he flew back to Indianapolis, and Indianapolis was run at that time by Jim Barnett, and that's when Jim Barnett, look in your history books, y'all, that's when he left and went to Australia and went over there for 10 years. Made nothing but money, man, just because it was a virgin territory. Never had professional wrestling territory. They had a few independent deals, but never like this. And so he just left Indianapolis with the committee running it. So when that happened, Dick the Bruiser came back with the WWA World belt, which he actually won there in Los Angeles. And so Dick the Bruiser's mother was real high in politics. His father was a baby doctor, delivered thousands of babies in Indianapolis, and they were very wealthy and up on all the politics and everything. And the whole thing was that Bruiser came in with the WWA World Championship belt. So his mother and him, they got a contract for Channel 5 there in Channel 4. I'm sorry, Channel 4 in Indianapolis, and that's where Barnett was on that and another station. But when he did that, Barnett's thing, he had his crew there, committee running the thing. Well, Bruiser, he was the hottest heel. The hottest baby face was his partner, and so he had a meeting with all the boys. Wilbur Snyder was his partner, and he was like a movie star, so good looking, good body, and that was the biggest baby face in Indianapolis territory, and so was Bruiser the biggest heel. So he says, look guys, we got Channel 4, and you guys, whoever wants to come over with us, we're starting this week, and I'm the world champion, WWA. Come right now, step over here. If you don't, he said, we're going to eat you up anyway. He says, we got Pat O'Connor, we got the Crusher, we got Sailor Art Thomas, we got Moose Cholak, they got the biggest stars that came out of Chicago and off in St. Louis, wherever. And he's just naming all kinds of names that's going with them. And everybody, Freddie came right over with them. And that's how the WWA started, right there. Yes, sir.
So what year did they bring Jerry in for Gentleman Jerry to add to the group?
Yeah, that happened in 1978 and 79. Johnny and I in 73 and 4 was WWF Tag Team World Champion. We beat Dean Ho and Tony Gurria. And at that time we held the record. We went over a year, maybe 13, 14 months, whatever it was. We actually held the belts. Now, who knows? I'm sure that could be. But at the time, no one's ever held them that long. And and so they called us back, me and Johnny, and Captain Lou was our manager. First time when they switched me on Strongbow, my manager was the Grand Wizard, Ernie Roth, and so we had a great run there with Strongbow and as a heel, and then of course the world champion and everybody else. But before that, I was so fortunate to have managers, great managers. You know, before that I had Bobby the Brain Heenan, you know, but at that time he was going as Pretty Boy Bobby Heenan. And even when Luscious Johnny, my tag brother, came in, and when he came in, you know, we had Bobby Heenan as our manager, and I got a great manager now, you know, and Captain Joe, you know, Captain's been with me, you know, 30 years, man, and you know, I just always been so lucky to have great managers, and of course, when you're talking about Gentleman Jerry, how that happened was they called me and Johnny back, and for another big run in New York, WWF again, for Vince Sr. And so we came in and we used to do 3 tapes, 2 days in a row, 3 tapes, and this would be shown, then they'd fly us back to where we were to work, and then we'd come back, do 3 more, and then 2 days in a row we'd go at Allentown and then and another town to do the TVs, 2 days in a row, and then they'd fly us back home and work. The next time we came in, the 3rd time, we'd do 3 more tapes. So the people seen 6 weeks of the Valiant Brothers with Captain Lou. Then we had Captain Lou Havana, and this man right here, I named after Captain Lou Havana, Captain Joe, and he really is a captain. He was a 20-year Navy man, and he's captain of security for his 2nd career, and but Captain Lou Havana was our manager, and what happened, Big Freddie, and Chris, you know, we did 6 tapes, so they had so much money invested in us and the people seen the Valiant Brothers out there for 6 weeks in a row, just smashing everybody, just killing them in the ring, you know, and they would get ready to put the straps back on us, and so at that time I contacted hepatitis, and that just kicked my can, man. In fact, I was 34 years old, and I talk about everything that we're talking about now is in my autobiography, but at that time, man, you know, hepatitis just kicked my can, and I almost didn't make it. In fact, the doctor told my wife that, you know, we don't think Jimmy's going to make it, you know, through the winter. And so I had to go home. And when I did, man, they had so much money invested in all these tapes, the Valiant Brothers. So they brought in then another Valiant brother, and he went as a stopper before that. You know, he went in, he worked for as an assassin, and so his real name is Jim Hill, but he came in as Gentleman Jerry Valiant, and he was a good hand, good wrestling heel. Johnny, you know, with Johnny, and so he took my spot. They put the straps on them. I was laid up, and I was laid up maybe 4 months before I came back. And when I did come back, and I'll tell you how Vince McMahon is, man. He sent me $500 a month, and you know, it really helped my family, and because there's no income, and he when I got well enough, you know, doctor cleared me. He says, "Come on back." Then we're going to do the six-way, the six-man, you know. And before the Freebirds, you know, and I love the Freebird, man, but we had basically the same thing. Even though they had the straps, any night, man, I could jump in there and we could have a match, or, you know, or whatever happened. Or we go six-man tags, and then they got me ready, you know, for Backlund. Backlund was the world champion then in '68, '69. Yeah, and I'm sorry, 78, 79.
In '79, that's when Johnny and Jerry won the tag belts.
Yes,
in
sir.
1979.
79, yes.
You're saying they brought you back, and then you was kind of like a duo, you know, a three-way.
You bet.
Three tag.
You bet.
So so how long when you came back? They feuded you with Backlund, of course, right?
Yes, sir.
Did you leave straight from there and went to Memphis in 1980? Am I correct? What year was that? Do you remember offhand exactly what year you went to Memphis?
Yeah, right after that, me and Johnny and Jerry, we went to Japan. I went 5 times for Baba, and Vince sent me in the first time in '72. I went for Baba. I went 4 times in '70s to Japan, 4 tours. First tour, I just went in for 3 weeks, and so for 3 weeks, the last week, it's so funny how this happened, and everything's timing, Freddie. Everything's luck, man. I mean, it just happens, you know. And I was supposed to go back into Tulsa after that. Now, I'm gonna get back to your question real fast. But I've been talking about Japan. Our interpreter, Joe Gucci, knocked on the door maybe 3 weeks before my first tour is over, and he says, and Baba's with him, Giant Baba, and he was the boss, he was the man. He says, we would like for you to stay for the next tour. The next tour is 4 weeks, 4 weeks, you know, long. And I said, okay. He says, but here's the thing, Jimmy, we don't want to fly you home. See, so there's a week in between each tour. Give them boys a break, and then the next group is on their way over and get ready for the next tour. And he says, here's what happened. He says, another blonde wrestler from Tennessee, and he got hurt, and he's got to have some kind of operation, and he says, Don Carson was his name, and a good hand, man. And he says, you're blind, and we just want you to take his spot. And they like my style, they like I was real easy, and they like how, you know, how I conducted myself. And that's what Vince McMahon Sr. said. He said, Jimmy, you're welcome back every 4 years, and which I did go back every 4 years for him. But real fast, he says, but we don't want to fly you home and back, so you stay here next week, and we'll give you your guarantee money. And I was making $1,500 a week. And he says, just like you're working. And he says, plus you stay right here in the hotel, and you just go down and eat 3 times a day at the thing. We take care of everything. Your hotel, you paid just like you're working. Then when they come in the week, then you got 4 more weeks with the same money. So I ended up staying 8 weeks. I went for 3, stayed 8 weeks. And real funny story right there. And one time I was sitting in the lobby and just relaxing during the day, and I go upstairs to work out and do everything I want to do. vacation, man. And I see all these little schoolgirls, you know, and they're all dressed in same uniform, little, Japanese girls. And all of a sudden, man, I said, geez, the school, there's something going on with the school or something. And all of a sudden, they start screaming and yelling, and all of a sudden, through the door, and they come running in, and so much clatter and everything. And it was the monkeys, the poor monkeys, man, and they were hot then at that time. And they were over on tour, and they stayed in the same hotel, and it was neat. I got to, talk to Davey, and I really like Davey, and God bless him, he passed on. But so many stories. Anyway, getting back to what was I'm sorry.
You went into Memphis.
Memphis, yes.
Memphis, 1980s. Now you went straight in there. Did you? I'm pretty sure you went straight in as a face, correct?
I did. And the reason I went in now, I just got back from Japan, and I was getting ready to go back to Bill Watts and territory, but it wasn't, it wasn't definite, and because from Japan, we were talking, and then but we didn't make the real deal, So when I come back, and then Jerry Jarrett's calling. He's calling everyone. Where is he? And I'm in Japan. And so he finally gets me, and he says, handsome. I was handsome Jimmy Valiant. He said, handsome, please come in. Please, we beg you, please come in. He says, Jerry Lawler broke his leg, and we want to, make you the king. Third king, the first king was Jackie Fargo, of course. He was first king in Memphis and territory, and then Jerry Lawler was the king, and then he said, in fact, we're taking Lawler's crown. He was mad at Lawler because he broke his leg, not in the ring, he broke his leg on the Sunday playing football, and every Sunday, Lawler was a real athlete. He was either playing baseball with his boys, or then he'd go and play football, And he says, so Jerry was really hot at him, man. And so he says, in fact, next Saturday I want you on TV, and I'm going to come out personally and present you with the crown. And at that time, Ellery was there, and which was the manager, for the Road Warriors later, but he was an actual wrestler. Goodbye.
Jimmy Hart was there too.
Oh, Jimmy Hart, the Snake Man. I call him the Snake Man. Yeah, Jimmy Hart was, in fact, he was managing Ellery, and they wanted to move me right in as the king until Lawler healed up, and we didn't know. He said it could be 6 months or whatever, but man, Lawler didn't get back till 9, 10 months. He was really hurt bad. I mean, they broke it really bad, and the whole thing was that at that time then of course I came in, as the crowd pleaser, handsome Jimmy, which I came in 77, first as handsome Jimmy, but and I just came in. There's a story, Freddie. Listen to this story, and then we'll get right back. And Lawler at that time was doing stuff with Jimmy Hart, which started, did a couple records, and Jimmy Hart wrote them and did the music and helped him. And in return, Lawler helped Jimmy get in the wrestling business as the manager. And they were both went to the same high school. Jimmy was 2 years ahead of him, and he was part of the Gentrys. And Ted Mack in original amateur hour, he won that sucker, and they came out with the Keep On Dancing, unbelievable, song, and they won that the whole year's program with Ted Mack, and if you won, you got a record contract, and you were in a movie, and you went on tour, and they were just young kids, and he did that, but So anyway, yeah, they were all there. They were all. Lawler was going to quit wrestling, and he was just going to say, "Hey man, I've done everything. I beat everybody. I want to go into music now." He had 2 records out, and so Jarrett called Dick the Bruiser. I'm wrestling in Indianapolis in WWE, and he says, "Hey, I need a heel just for one night in Memphis, because we're going to have a round robin, and whoever wins this wins Lawler's belt, because Lawler is retired." So this was all done on TV, and he says, "Well, he says, who do you have there, Dick?" And this is Jerry Jarrett talking to Dick the Bruiser. He says, "Well, the heel, my top heels." He says, I got Ernie the Cat Ladd. I got Ivan Koloff. I got handsome Jimmy Valiant, you know. And he said, "Wait a minute, now Ivan can't. He's going to." And he was going out there with Superstar Billy Graham. But he had some little promotion starting up in California. So he says, "No, he'll be out of town then." And he says, "I don't know about Ernie. Ernie's just in and out." And he said, "Well, I'll take handsome Jimmy. Just one night. That's all they wanted. I was just out there to do, do that." And they brought in, they flew in Jack Briscoe. They flew in Bruce Swayze. They flew in Mr. Wrestling. And not Tim Woods, but this is they just passed away. There was another Mr. Wrestling.
Mr. Wrestling 2?
Well, no, it wasn't Johnny Walker.
Not John, okay.
No, there's another Mr. Wrestling. I'll think of his name, man. Just somebody. Anyway, so they flew in 4 or 5 guys. Oh, Bobo Brazil was there, and they flew in. And they had the Tennessee Territory. We did that battle thing. So I'm there for one night. I'm getting the payoff, and that's it. So here's how things work: right place, right time, Freddie. And so I get there, and they put me on the first match with Superstar Billy Dundee. Now he is the hottest babyface next to Lawler. He is the man. Now, Lawler's retiring, I know that, and he just shaved his head, and he shaved his wife's head the next day. They put her hair up after that, and so Lawler's done. I've done everything. So I'm looking at Dundee, and he says, "No, this is our top guy, And I said, "You bet." And I said, "What do you want, man?" I thought I was gonna, do the job first match and get out of there with the little payoff and bop. Well, he says, "We want you to go 10-minute Broadway." And so we went through the time limit. And he said, at that time, Morton, his father, Ricky Morton's daddy, and Paul Morton, he was a referee, and he flips a coin and call it, boom, look, I won the call, so I continue. That got Superstar Billy Dundee out of there, not hurting him. And so I go on to the Battle Royal, to the round robin for the, now what we're doing, the winner's going to get Lawler's belt. So at that time, then I go and I beat someone else, and then I got a bye, and then finally I end up in the main event. And the main event, Mr. Wrestling, they were really, I was going to put him over because he was the guy coming in, to do this angle thing. But when that happened, the first match when I went with Billy Dundee, we tore the house down. Man, I came out, man, and strutting around, boy from New York City, had that blonde hair and fancy jacket. And, oh man, it took me 5 minutes to get my jacket off, and I'm begging, I'm flying out. Oh, the people are just hating me, and Lawler's there, and Jared's there, and of course watching, and he said, oh man, we tore the house down the first match, so as soon as I come back, Freddie, as soon as I come back, Lawler and Jared, Hanson, come here. They get me in their office. He said, man, can you come back next week? Because they run every Monday at the Memphis Coliseum. And I says, well, I'm sure I can, but you got to check with Bruiser. Bruiser's my boss. That's who I'm working for. And he said, what's the chance? I said, well, chances are great because he don't have nothing on Monday. Tuesday, I got to be Tuesday morning, I got to be there at 9 o'clock to do interviews all day, you know. And then Wednesday, we were off. And then we worked Thursday, Friday, Saturday. That was Bruce's territory. Tuesday for interviews, and then Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So he says, oh man. So they figured it out. Said, man, hey, let's go with it. So we go all the way to the finish, and I beat the guy that was going to be their champion. I beat Mr. Wrestler, I take the belt, man, Lawler's belt, and I says, I do an interview, I kind of interview, hey, this right here, I'm going back to New York City, the Big Apple, the Big Light, all you hillbillies, all you know, rednecks, all you know, tobacco chewing, man, I just tore them up, man, you know, wicked, you know, raising kids, man, you know, all this stuff. And it's so funny, Freddie, that you know, I was born in Tennessee, and I put Tennessee down so bad. And it was my state, man. All my uncles and aunts, they all lived there, you know. I was born there, raised up in Indiana, but I was born there. And I just put it down like crazy. And I says, you know, hey, I'm going to give one more chance. And I don't care who it is, if it's Mickey Mouse or Andre the Giant, you have him here next week. I'll kick his can too. And I says, I'm the Southern heavyweight champion. Lawler is nothing but garbage. He's out of here. I said, I'll give one more shot, but if you don't beat me next week, you'll never see me again. I'm taking this belt back to New York, and I'll stay. And so I leave. I did the interview. They flew me midnight at 12 o'clock, flew me to Indianapolis so I could do TV for my boss, Dickie Bruiser. And so here's the whole thing. Dickie Steinborn, Mr. Wrestling, guys, look it up, history book. That's who they had there coming in the territory, and they thought, they said, Hanson, your style, man, this is what Tennessee, you're gonna get over like crazy, man. You know, we gotta have you back. So they put me over Dickie Steinborn, so anyway, so I had, the next week I put the belt up because Dickie Steinborn was natural, and he says, hey, it's my time. Hey, I got the shot at him. So I went back against Steinborn in the main event. That's when, Freddie, and intermission time there, Lawler comes and does an interview, says, I'm coming back one last time to Memphis Coliseum, and I'm going to do a free concert in the intermission. And he says, and then I'm going on for my music. You'll never see me again, unless you come to one of the concerts. So that was free, and I'm the new champion. So of course it jammed, it sold out, and that's when we shot the big angle with Lawler, and that's when Jimmy Hart brought Lawler out, going to sing and all that for the concert, and Lawler sung one song, and then he's going to do his second song that he did, and just before that, as he's warming up the crowd, for Lawler to come, I come strutting out. See? And I said, I grabbed the phone. I said, hey, these hillbillies don't want to hear Jerry and King Lawler sing. They want to hear Handsome Jimmy sing. And I can sing. I said, and I turned to the band, and it was the Gentrys. It was Jimmy Hart's band. I said, and the hottest song out at that time was, you took a fine time to leave me, Lucille, by Kenny Rogers. And I said, hey, y'all know it took a fine time to leave me, Lucille. And I said, I want to sing for these hillbillies. And then Jared and everybody came up, Handsome, this ain't your time. This is Lawler's time. Hey, please, go on back. You're here to wrestle tonight. Hey, we don't want no trouble. And I said, I didn't want to sing for these hillbillies anyway. So I just dropped the mic and I leave. And that's when Jimmy Hart works the crowd. Here comes Lawler. Did one song. Just as he got into the second song, he laid his guitar down, and that's when I come on that stage and I grabbed his guitar, did the Boogie Woogie, and boom, I hit him with that guitar, and it just exploded. And there's Lawler's laid out. I'm putting the boots to him, and then here comes, man, the cops and everybody, and Jared, and everybody's coming, and I got out of there, and Lawler's bleeding, and then, of course, I do an interview before I left. I said, hey, you'll never see me. I'm taking the belt back to New York, blah, blah, blah. And here comes Lawler back, all bandaged up and that. And he says, hey, man, hey, I got to put this on hold. I got to get this, New York Yankee. And I said, hey, I'm going to come back. I'm going to wrestle. And they had a waiver there. I got to come back and defend the belt, so many times, and so I had to come back. Anyway, that's how that started there. But then in 1980, I came back, which I was over. I was already over like $1 million, and so that's how that started there. Yes, sir. 1980.
So after Memphis, so much great memories in Memphis. As myself, as you mentioned, Bill Dundee was there, Brickhouse Brown, a lot of great, stars, Bobby Eaton, all them guys. Then you
Boston Idol. Oh
yes.
My goodness.
Great managers. Remember Randy Hills?
Oh, you bet.
Randy Hills, Brandon Baxter.
You bet. Oh.
So we move on to Memphis and make some, like you said, Memphis. Great memories there. Then we go on to you enter into the NWA, National Wrestling Alliance. Now, that was in the 80s that you went in there, correct?
Yes, sir.
Now, when you went in there, was great stories there. Nicole Loss, Paul Jones, Manny Fernandez, all them great guys you feud with and tag with. Now, the booker, when you went in there at the time, was it Ole or Dusty?
Ole.
Ole.
I went in 81, and Ole was the booker this year.
And then Dusty took over, right?
Yeah, Dusty did. He sure did.
In your opinion, one of the questions for people, they heard so many stories about Ole and Dusty. In your opinion, as professional and as a wrestler there, what was the difference between them? Did you get along better with Ole or Dusty?
Yeah, Big Freddie, man, Chris, brother, I get along with everybody, and I can honestly say this right now. There's 320 million people in the United States, and I have not one enemy. Now, to myself, Now, there may be 1,000 people who don't like me, but that's their problem. You understand? Yeah. In other words, I do not hold a grudge, and I don't just allow it. I do not allow no negativity in my mind, in my brain. I got the sweetest wife, Angel Valiant, God bless her, man. We've been together 30 years, and you know Angel so well. And we've been married, and I've not had one cross word with her in 30 years, and we've never had an argument. And I tell people that, and I think, Boogie, how can that happen? But I just refuse, and so does she. she's so much like me. We're both Leo. We're both born in August, and we're just easy going. I don't have time for it, brother. Hey, hey, I'm almost 80 years old, and hey, I got so many different things wrong with me, man, elements, and which everybody gets at it, going through life. That's what God has in mind, and you go with that, and you just survive it. So why, stress out on anything, So going back to your question, with Ole, and he's the one, that first I went in there for Crockett's in '81 as King James, and he put another great manager with me, Lord Alfred Hayes, Lord Alfred, captain, but that was a very short run thing, and they teamed me up right away with I was a heel. They teamed me up with Greg Valentine, the Hammer, and it was summertime. We did a great run for the whole summer against Ebony Diamond, which was the Rock's father, and so at that time, his partner was Bad Leroy Brown. So we had a great run. I mean, a fabulous run on that. So then all of a sudden, I was just like maybe 8 weeks, and Jerry Jarrett calls Jim Crockett and says, "Hey, can we have Handsome Jimmy for Memphis next Monday? Can you let him go?" And he says, "I know you got a book somewhere, but we will pay you, so much money because we really need him for Memphis." He says, "Geez, we've never heard of this thing." So Ole says, "Hey, let him go if he wants to go." They asked me. I said, "Sure." They flew me in, and they teamed me up with Lawler, and against the team that got down on him, and boom, sold Memphis out, and So I fly back the next day, Tuesday, and as soon as I get there, Ole is waiting on me. And he says, and we do interviews every Tuesday, just like we did for Dick the Bruiser on Tuesday. We did interviews all day from 9 o'clock till 3 o'clock, and then we'd go to a town, and wrestle that night. And so when he says, "Man," and so they get me in the room with Jimmy Crockett, and he says, "Shut the door, man." He says, "Man, why didn't you tell me you were a character, out there, And I said, "Well, I was just a heel there, see." And in Memphis, I was over so strong at that time, '81, because I just been there all, 81, 82. Or 80, I was in Memphis for that almost a year when Lawler broke his leg. So I got over so strong, and no matter what I did, the people loved it. I couldn't do no wrong. I'd pick up a chair and hit a guy with it. I could pull his hair, then I could take a gimmick out and knock him out. They all see it, and the guy said, "Hey, he pulled my hair," and I look at the people, and I said, "Hey, Captain, did I pull a hair?" No, they'd lie. No, they loved me. See, they loved that because, of course, I was going against all the rough guys, the heel, and so I was over so strong. When Lawler called me in, boom, it boosted the house and sold it out. And then when we come back, when I came back, he said, "Well, that's what we want to do here. We want that here," because what happened was, and how they knew that, Jerry Jarrett that morning was on the horn, burning it up, said, "Can we have Handsome back, for a couple of weeks?" And he says, "We'll do this, we'll pay you, man, and that's unheard of, brother, pay that for that. Then they're gonna pay me, see, they are. So, and fly me in and out and all that, put me up for the night. And so the whole thing was that I got over, that's what they wanted there, a character. And the first character, and how I didn't invent that, man. Hey, I was taking that from Dick the Bruiser. Dick the Bruiser was the hottest heel in the nation, in the world, man. Japan, everywhere. He was a hot, you know, in the 50s, the 60s, you know. And now him and Crusher, they were both heel. Now they're the hottest baby face, but they were just brawlers. And they went against the bad guys, and they knew they wanted to see that. Well, that's what I copied myself.
And the fans loved him either way.
Exactly.
You booked him as a heel, they loved to see him beat the hell out of everybody.
You bet.
Yeah.
You bet, Chris. And so only, he said, that's what we want here. And he says, but we don't want your name, Handsome Jim. Oh, no, we don't want King James. We don't want Handsome Jimmy. And we don't want Handsome Jimmy. He says, we want, we want a different name. What can we call you? And I just shot it right out of my mind, and I had no plans for nothing. And how about the Boogie Woogie Man? And he looked at Jimmy Crockett, and okay. And then I says, can I do one more thing? I says, can I come out to music? He says, what? Only. What? I says, yeah. I says, now in Memphis, I come out to music. Nobody's coming out to music. And again, I wasn't the first to do this. Ernie Roth, 1970, 10 years earlier, I came out to Madison Square Garden with Ernie Roth to music. And how Ernie brought it up to Vince was that that Gorgeous George, the original Gorgeous George, came out to music 2 or 3 times on TV, never in the arena. So I was the first to come out to music in the arena. Now everybody comes out to music, you know. But I was, and he said, what? Yeah, I said, let me come out to music. He said, like what? I said, there's a hot song out, the boy from New York City, man, has cancer. In Memphis, I was coming out to my own music, Son of Gypsy, you know, that I made. I made it with Jimmy Hart, and that's another story. But then he says, okay. He says, can you grow a beard? And I said, well, yeah, I can. He says, throw your razor away, leave. He sent me out for 6 weeks to Crockett. I mean to Memphis. And so I went out 6 weeks to Memphis. When I came back, I had a beard started. I came out to music, and they talked about it every week. Wait till you see the Boogie Woogie. He's coming, he's on his way. The Boogie Woogie Man. They put it over, you know, like crazy. All the announcers, everybody talked about the Boogie Woogie. Hey, and when I hit that town, brother, I came out, I said, I got to do something different. You got to be different. Not only come out to music, but now I'm going to come out and I'm going to start dancing. I'm going to start kissing people. I'm going to start kissing, I don't care. Grandma, grandpa, your children, hey, it don't matter. Green, black, blue, purple. Hey, I kiss everybody I see. Coming to the ring, going through. Now, nobody's doing that. Well, for one thing, nobody wants to do that. Who wants to kiss, kiss everybody? But I had to be different. And I came out to music, dancing, then I'd come in, boogie woogie, do my dance, then I'd kick cans, then boom, drop the bomb on him, drop the elbow, bang, 1, 2, 3, yeah, it's all over. And then so this is how the Boogie Woogie Man started. All right, and again, Freddie, your question, how do I get along with Ole? I got it great with Ole. Ole was a real tough cat, man. I mean, a really rough guy. He cussed constant. He was, the only person that I know cussing more is my partner, yeah, right here, my brother, man. And I just accept it because that's him. Just like Ole, but the whole deal is that he's a rough customer. But only if he likes you, brother, he'll go to bat for you, and I mean he'll give you the chance, he'll give you the shot, and if he don't like you, boy, then he your history,
What year did Dusty take over? The booking? Was that like in 85, 86?
Yeah, probably 84, yeah, no, it was, yeah, 83. Well, I know, 83, no, earlier, because he was the one behind the Boogie Man Jam 84. So that was his brainchild, man. You know, hey, people don't know this, but Dusty Rhodes, he invented, he started the Starcade. It was before WrestleMania. Starcade was maybe 45 years before WrestleMania started.
Did they split it up in between at first before Dusty took completely over? Like they give half of the section to Ole and half to Dusty, am I correct? Like from Georgia, I mean, I think I watched
went to Georgia for Jim
I
Barnett.
think I watched
an
the interview with Ole, and Ole was talking about how they split it up.
They did.
Who was over different like in the Carolinas and Georgia and Florida and all that stuff. They split up who was in charge of that.
Yeah,
and they split the guys up because the way Ole was saying, you know, that they had Vince Senior and by then, you know, Vince Junior was involved with his dad also. That they was going to they only did one show a night, but back then, you know, NWA, National Wrestling Alliance, was doing 2 or 3 shows per day. I mean, in different areas. And he might be selling out Madison Square Garden, Ole said, but you guys were selling out, you know, arenas 3 times, twice of that. You know, that was the difference between, you know, New York and the NWA crew.
You bet.
And you was part of that, part of the NWA at that time, because you already left Vince Senior. Yeah. So when you left and went, did you have an opportunity to go back while you was in NWA? Was you offered to go back to Vince? Did Vince reach out to you? That was one of the questions somebody asked.
You bet. Yeah, he did. And I'll tell you the truth. What happened there was that he did call. Valentine left. Piper left. He was getting all the top boys. In the 80s, it was on fire. Memphis Coliseum would sell out, man, every night. You know, they in between there, like 82, 83. Every time I go to Memphis, Jerry Jarrett and Lawler said, "Hanson, when you coming back home? When you come?" And I got tired of it. You know, I said, "Oh man." And then they asked me again. And when they asked me, I tell myself, if they ask me again, I said, "You buy me a house, I'll come and look for you." And I did. I shot that out, and Jerry Jarrett laughed, and he said, "Did you hear that, King?" He said, "Hanson, what's the house?" And they laughed, and I said, "Hey, that's cool." So I go and do my thing. I go back to North Carolina, you know, for Crockett. 3 days later, Lawler's on the phone. "Handsome, we got you booked for 3 weeks. In 2 more weeks," he says, "come in, pick out your house, any kind of house you want in Memphis." And I said, "I got to be moved too. Mayflower, you know, move me, brother." And they said, "That's fine, blah, blah, blah." So anyway, first time ever anybody bought any wrestler a house. And I was the first. But getting back to your thing, what was, yes, Ole was running there in Atlanta, Georgia, and of course was working together with the Crockett's, and Dusty was there with us, you know, and there, and Ole was cussing, you know, up there with every other word, brother, man, you know, yeah. I hear you knocking, but you can't come in. Boom, 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 boom. Yeah. Just like my brother Woody. Get a shot of Woody over there, right there. Look here, Wood. Don't cuss now. Don't cuss. You're on air. I love it. But
We heard so many stories with Ole and stuff like that. So,
yes, sir.
I mean, one of the questions was, to get all this in here real quick, Charlie Brown. The gimmick,
Oh,
Charlie
yes.
Brown. Who came up with that gimmick for you?
Yeah, Charlie Brown. Everything was Dusty Rhodes' brainchild.
Range.
Yeah, and that was only 6 months because I lost a match, you know, to Kabuki, and with Gary Hart, Playboy as manager, and I had to leave for 6 months. 6 months, and that's when Charlie Brown came back and had the beard, and everybody knew that was Handsome Jimmy, and they went nuts, and you know, and that's how that happened. But not only the Boogie Man Jam, not only, you know, Charlie Brown, but he did the Bunkhouse Stampede. This is all his brainchild.
Oh yes, Dusty.
All came out of Dusty. Okay, he did the Starcade. He did the Crockett Cup. Man, I could go on and on. He invented all of this stuff, man. You know, and the hottest thing, Angle, one of the hottest ones. Well, one day, you know, Paul Jones and his army was 5 years, you know, in the making. I wrestled at five years, either Paul Jones or one of his armies for 5 years, 7 days a week. Freddie, we would work 9 times a week, wrestle.
Yes.
We'd work, there's 7 days in a week, so we'd work, of course, every night. But Saturday and Sunday, we would work twice.
Yes.
That's
The morning,
9 times.
the morning and the evening.
Exactly.
Yes.
So that's 9 times.
Was Dusty also came up with, I believe I saw in one of the interviews of Barry Windows.
You bet.
I believe he mentioned that it was Dusty's idea for one of the Skywalkers.
You bet.
He was one of them that brought up with the Midnight Express, because I believe it was supposed to be the Midnight Express, or it might be vice versa, with the Pirates, with the Barbarian and Warlord, and of course Barb wouldn't do it, and that's when they changed the story around with the Road Warriors, and of course the Skywalkers got real famous with Rock and Roll Express and all them guys.
You bet.
So Dusty, like you said, had a mind creation, the business.
Oh, in my book, I put him over like $1 million.
He does.
Yeah, just like I do you. You know, a captain can tell you, we're on the road, the captain, and more people asked about Charlie Brown. You know, what's going on, Charlie Brown? You know, and it was only 6 months. Man, I've been wrestling 56 years, and that Charlie Brown thing was one of the hottest things ever because they still talk about it.
Yeah, and remember this now. Charlie Brown was only around for 6 months.
Right.
I mean, simple, cut and dry. And everybody keeps talking about you here today. Every other person asks about it.
They never forget about that
And-
6 month
exactly.
period. And yeah.
Yes.
Amazing.
It's called memories. Yeah, people live back memories and childhood.
Yes.
You bet.
One of the questions here, so we can try to wrap this up here and get people's questions here answered for. Vice TV recently was on with a promoter that he was involved with, UWF. Do you recall the UWF? He was trying to put Vince out of business, but he was involved in that company. And can you tell us some stories? Did he contact you to come to UWF to come there? Can you tell us about that?
I can. And he brought me and Colonel, one of my managers, and Marty Jesper, a big kid from South Carolina, and he brought me in, and we drove all the way out to California, and we stayed 3 weeks, and he paid me weekly salary, and we worked 3 times, once a week. Put us up in a big hotel, and right away I'm looking at this. I got my cash, I got my money, but I said, Colonel, something's fishy here, and because he's the 3rd week we were at this fancy hotel, they're calling and says, when's this guy gonna pay the money? Pay the bill, And I said, hey man, you gotta go with it. I ain't got nothing to do with it. I'm so sorry. And and then everywhere we go, man, he's charging everything, and he's taking us to fancy restaurants, and man, he's, flinging cards and money and this and that. But I said, some fishy there, brother, man. And and he lived in a very fancy place. You had to go through security to get in. It was a gated, a place where he lived, and you had to go through the guards and everything. And so there was money there, but I don't know, it wasn't his money. I don't know what money it was. But I figured it, and then he came in, and I worked for him in South Carolina, and Spartanburg, and this is where Marty Jesberg is from, that area. And so he helped him with the radio promotion, with the TV, with the newspaper. He put us all up in the big Holiday Inn, deal there in Spartanburg. He flew everybody in. John told us it flew in, commentating. And so we had a big match in Spartanburg, sold it out, all this. But you know what? He didn't pay no bills. He split town, and we had a shot the next night, and Marty says he canceled the next night, man. And I just so happened to catch him, man, and I got my lick, and I'm gone. I knew. And so he didn't pay a bill. So there, flim flam. He was a hustler. He was, honestly, God bless a crook.
He was people was traveling. That he wanted the show to be about him, and he wanted to be in the business, but good to what we say in the business. You should be buying a ticket besides in the business.
There you go. Yeah, Freddie,
Yeah. So I watched the documentary, but I did ask some questions. And I knew your name was brought up, and you was in, some footages, and I'm like, so that's one of the questions that somebody wanted to ask.
These guys that did that was from Canada, and they did talk to me about doing it. Colonel Jesberg, Marty, he was on it.
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's the one that brought your name, and
yes.
And that's what one of the questions here was going to ask. But question, short answer here. Somebody asked, was you and Big Mama, was you all really married?
Married, yes. I've been married 3 times, and I got 3 lovely daughters. By my first marriage, I was married 17 years. I'm a married person. I love to be married. Then I was married to Big Mama 13 years. She gave me a wonderful, beautiful boy, and handsome Jimmy. In fact, his name is Handsome Jimmy on his birth certificate. And he's in Florida. He was born in 1980 in Memphis. When I went there in 80, he was born. So he's in Memphis. Now he's in Florida, and he's doing well. He's 40 years old, and this is 2020.
You mentioned your children there. Somebody just asked, did any of your children ever go into professional wrestling business?
No, they haven't. I got 3 daughters, and I got 2 boys. I got another boy that's out east, and I didn't even know I had him until he was 9 years old, and I get a knock on the door, and I just got in from a trip. I was in Charlotte at the time, and they were serving me papers, and this lady sued me for $2 million, and I says, man, she think I'm Elvis Presley or something, man. I said, she's, but I had a little boy, and anyway, he was my son, and that blew that marriage, and I honestly can say, and I tell in my book, it was my fault both marriages didn't work out. 17 and 13 years, that's 30 years. I've been with my angel for 30 years. I've been married 60 years in my life. She has babies, they're mine, and I have babies, they're hers. Yeah. I have over a dozen grandbabies. I got over 6 or 8 great grandbabies. And
big shout out to Angel, by the way. I mean, not to be cut you short. You got your wrestling school up in Charlottesville, Virginia. As I went to it myself. Some of the greats come out of there, still, wrestling today. I mean, And you helped a lot of people in the business. I mean, you know, Ricky Morton, I know that you helped him a lot and helped train him along with his dad. You know, even Ricky talks about you. We go on to some of the, you know, the independent guys. I mean, myself that I know, you know, Frankie Parker, you know, Roger Anderson,
Sarge.
you know, Sarge, a lot of some of the great, you know that you helped live their dream. And as my, you know, me and Chris was talking, and we was talking about your school, but also Angel has, you know, wrestling gear, professional wrestling gear. You know, out there, you know, contact them on Facebook. You know, she makes all your gear, and I think Captain Joe there.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of stuff. She made a lot of stuff for me, a lot of stuff for my guys from my school in the past, and still does today. And then she just made a couple of my students gear recently. So, but one of the questions,
you know, real fast, Freddie, I don't want to offer, but just check out jimmyvaliant.weebly.com. Now there's 2 dots there. jimmyvaliant.weebly, WEEBLY.com. And I have, this is our website. This is, Brian Powell is a great webmaster and Big M, and just check it out. Everything's on there you need to know. You can check out Angel's Wrestling Wear that way. You can check out about the camp. You can check out anything that you ever want to know about Handsome Jimmy, the Boogie Woogie Man Valiant, is on jimmyvaliant.weebly.com, or you can email me personally at jimmyvaliant@outlook.com. jimmyvaliant@outlook.com. And of course, get a hold of Big Freddie right here, baby. Big time wrestling, man. And he'll get you.
Big time wrestling.
That's it right there, baby. That's it.
well, I know, you know, people don't understand. I mean, we was talking also about, you know, about your coming stuff, and I'm like, you know, here's a guy, Jimmy, that worked, you know, that was on TV all over the world for 30 years, and you've been almost 30 years or more well known all over the independent scene.
Yes, sir.
I mean, so I mean, so you count that up, and that's almost 60 years in the business, right?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
60 plus years.
Yes, sir.
And you're still doing it today, right today. I mean,
Last year.
Yeah, last year you know, you did the Toys for Tots here for West Virginia. And I've been telling the people, man, I remember when I first started in the business, you was actually coming to West Virginia independent scenes almost weekly. It seemed like he was here a lot. I mean, he got over so much with the crowd. And I remember watching you on TV, and me and Chris Angel was talking. I said, I never forget, it was in 1998 over in Ironton, Ohio. He was working for R.C. Wyatt. I mean, you did a couple shows for him.
Yep.
And of course, me and you can go into that. That's another crook.
Another big plan, man.
Yeah. And I remember that Buddha was there.
Oh, geez, yes.
And they was talking, they needed somebody to go in and work an angle with you to run into a, and I said, well, I've been to Jimmy's school, but I never actually dedicated myself yet. And then, of course, I was already in the business. And I remember Buddha coming to me and saying, hey, they need some young cocky boy to just go in and do this simple angle and, you know, beat him up and blah, blah, and put the boost to Jimmy. And I remember to this day, me and you was talking in the back, and you was like, let's talk, kid, come here for a minute. And you was like, now, everything's easy, soft and easily. And I remember you telling me, you know, about punches and all that stuff and how to, you know, to do them. And you actually got in the locker room with me. You said I did a wonderful job, and
You did.
you barely felt them.
You bet.
So, I mean, we worked so many times together, and a lot of people don't know that you paved the roads for a lot of guys in this business. And here's a guy, you know, sitting here today and still doing it. You know, you'll be 78 years old. Am I correct?
Yes, sir. August
And
6th.
August the 6th. And it's so, I mean, people just don't understand that we did so much for the business and stuff. And so if you have anything to say to the fans out here, I mean, what would it be for the West Virginia fans out here today?
You know, Freddie, I tell you, man, and I've told you this, you know, before, because me and you were so tight, and I'm just honored to be your not only your protege, your partner, but I'm honored mostly just to be your friend for all these years, you know, and I'll be your friend forever, man, until I die, and then we're going up to the big ring in the sky, brother, and we're going to be there forever, for sure. Yeah, the fans. If it wasn't for the fans, man, hey, I mean, there would be no business, you know. And I'm a people person. I just love the fans, you know. I love to, you know, just hug them, talk to them, man, just be with them, and be part of, you know, hey, what do they want? You know, what do they want to talk about? And of course, I know it's wrestling, which we will, but I just want to, you know, thank them for buying that ticket, man. You know, because without that, I mean, we would be nothing, you know.
Exactly.
And when I was a heel, you know, as Handsome Jimmy and strutting around, man, and you know, I just look right over their head like I was better than them. Well, that was my persona. That's how me and Johnny, illustrious Johnny, Handsome Jimmy, Jim and Jerry, that's how we got over. But it wasn't me, you know, because when we came out, we wouldn't sign autographs, you know, get out of it, you know, and you know, it wasn't me, you know. But then when I reinvented myself as a Boogie Woogie Man, then I could really show my personality, you know, and do it, you know, and then be their friends, you know. And it's all fans, man. Fans are everything, you know. Freddie, you're so good with the fans, you know. You pack your arena. Big time wrestling packs. I mean, you sell out, man. You're one of the best, not only the best performers, you know, when you wrestle for years, but also, brother, you're the best promoter, man. You just jam it, you know. You jam the boxes, and you know how to do it, you know. And it's all psychology. It's all something to do, and you give the fans the best time that they have, you know, and you always have ideas, new ideas. And you're going to have Boogie Jam, you know, my last event here in West Virginia. And I know whatever it is, I know you already got it figured out, and it's going to be something different, something that fans will love, something that the fans would come out in droves to see, you know, me for the last time. But you know where it's coming from? It's coming from your brain. Just like Dusty Rhodes, it comes from his brain. But someone's got to have a mentor, you know. You know, my mentor was Dick the Bruiser, you know. Dusty Rhodes' mentor was Eddie Graham, you know. And you know, you got to have someone that shows you the ropes, you know, that really teaches you, and then you teach your people, you know. Absolutely. And this is how it is. It's passed down. You know, I teach my Captain Joe. Captain Joe, we're together, you know, every day, every weekend, you know. Yeah, you know, you're right. You know, I reinvented myself from Handsome Jimmy to the Boogie Woogie Man. So I had two different careers. You know, in the 60s, 70s, I was Handsome Jimmy. In the 80s, 90s, and 2000, 2010, and 20, well, I'm the Boogie Woogie Man. But you're right. Half the time, Big Freddie, I was, I did 30 years in professional wrestling all over the world. We were first to do the TBS, the Channel 17, and it was going all over. They were the first cable that went all over the world. But before that, in the 70s, how you became an international star, because there was no cable, and before Ted Turner, then you had to get on in the magazines. Well, I was so fortunate because all the magazines are from New York City. Every time I go to New York City, stay a year each time.
Right there.
Yeah, there it is.
Well, Willie.
Oh,
Yep,
you
Willie.
bet. You
Yeah,
bet,
Willie.
Willie, man. I named him, and then I got like 12, 14 covers, of magazines, So then you're an international star because they're sold all over the world, and the fans already knew where I would come and go, and they would
It
know.
puts it back to the fans, like you were saying. Without the fans, it wouldn't be any professional wrestling. Without the fans, it wouldn't be no Handsome Jimmy, it wouldn't be no Boogie Woogie Man, and it wouldn't be no John Cena, it wouldn't be no Hulk Hogan, Ric Flair, because without them buying their merchandise, buying their ticket, and their hard-earned money, it wouldn't be no professional wrestling. So you got that right, because you told me that a long time ago. And you also told me before, and I always kept it in my mind, work well with others climbing up that ladder, because you might make it big, like you did to the New York Madison Square Garden, but any day you're going to get released, like a lot of the people has already, and you got to climb down that ladder once again.
And you meet the same
People, and you're back in the same independent wrestling.
You got.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Freddie Cornell coming at you. Handsome Boogie Woogie Man, Jimmy Valiant, Captain Joe with us right here. Also, thanks for Chris Angel to join us right here. Join us on BigTimeProWrestling.com. This will be on YouTube, BigTimeProWrestling.com. Also, follow us on Facebook. Share this video. Boogie, thank you very much for having coming here to my location, my house. And
Beautiful mansion, brother. I'll tell my people, woo, messy, Boogie Woogie Man feel good. I'll tell my people